This year marks the 76th anniversary of the date that President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. The order that set into motion the forced removal of 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry from their homes and imprisonment in concentration camps without due process. Some of you may know I used to work at the Channel 2, and one of my very proud moments was interviewing Fred Korematsu back in the late 1990s. And I actually coincidentally went to an elementary school in El Cerrito that is now the Fred Korematsu Middle School. And I work for the Open School District now, which has Fred T. Korematsu Discovery Academy elementary school. So I'm quite proud of that. And actually last year, Karen Korematsu, Fred's daughter, was the keynote speaker at Castle High School, where Fred graduated. So I wanted to share one of Fred's quotes. "No one should ever be locked away simply because they share the same race, ethnicity, or religion as a spy or terrorist. If that principle was not learned from the internment of Japanese Americans, then these are very, very dangerous times for our democracy." Our program today is No Barbed Wire, No Wall, Carrying the Light for Justice. Our theme recognizes that Japanese Americans have a moral responsibility to carry the light for justice. World War II incarceration is a living reminder of what happens when wartime hysteria takes over, when constitutional rights are trampled, and when politics goes unchallenged. We recognize the connection between the World War II incarceration and current exclusionary policies targeting those of the Muslim faith, and with immigrants demonized and facing restrictions and deportations. Today we also celebrate the unprecedented victory of the passage of the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which acknowledged the government's wrongdoing and provided a formal apology and monetary compensation to those who suffered World War II incarceration. By the way, that was President Reagan who did that. I would imagine he would be quite appalled by what is happening in our country today. We honor today the Japanese American community members who courageously testified at the Commission on Wartime Relocation and internment of civilian hearings, our allies who support our cause, and those who continue to fight for redress and justice today. And before we go on, I just wanted to mention, especially working in education, but I know everybody in this room was equally appalled by what happened this past Wednesday in Florida. And I just want to say from a personal standpoint, I think that what happened in World War II and what happened in Florida, and seems to continue to happen across our country, are at least a byproduct of some of the similar things that are at work in people not taking seriously, not standing up for what's right, not doing what Fred Korematsu said, to speak up when something is going on. When you know that something is wrong, you have to say something. And I don't know if you all saw today, but some of those kids from Stone Douglas High School spoke up very passionately about making change in this country. So hopefully we're going to see some change in that realm, and hopefully through events like this we're going to see some change for immigrants and Muslims in our nation as well. So our keynote speaker is coming up, and we're honored to have Sameena Usman as our keynote speaker today. She speaks loudly and persistently against injustice. Her voice alerts us to the unjust laws and mistreatment of those singled out based on race, religion, and nationality. We're compelled to remember the findings of the Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Civilians that the mass incarceration of people with Japanese ancestry was caused not by military necessity, but by racial prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership. Sameena Usman serves as the Government Relations Coordinator for the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, San Francisco Bay Area office, where she works with elected officials and advocating for impactful legislation, connects them with their constituents, and provides information about the Bay Area Muslim community and their concerns, including civil rights issues. Through her work, she actively builds bridges with various communities and conducts interfaith dialogues. Sameena was awarded the API Heritage Leadership Award by Congressman Ro Khanna and Community Hero Award from the Assemblyman Kansas City. We're pleased to have Sameena share her perspectives on threats to civil liberties that face us today, so please welcome Sameena Usman.
Hello. Earlier this week, one of the most highly celebrated days of the year occurred. It's none other than Valentine's Day. I'm sure many of you guys did something to commemorate the day. It's a holiday filled with roses and romance and chocolate-covered strawberries and handmade Valentine's cards. But this February 14th was different for one school in Parkland, Florida. This day was marred with gunshots from an AR-15 echoing the halls of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. 14 students and 3 teachers lay dead from one of the worst mass shootings in this country. Their families torn apart by a murderous rampage. Yet another mass shooting to add to the already 30 this year. History repeating its violent self. While we work together to piece the puzzle of such a horrific crime, it was discovered that this 19-year-old shooter had a history of bigotry. According to news reports, his social media was full of violent, racist, Islamophobic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and anti-immigrant posts. He talked about killing Mexicans, keeping black people in chains, and cutting their necks. There were news reports that he had been a participant of a white supremacist group. This week's massacre is a stark reminder of the growing white supremacist activity in our country. In 2017, murders by white U.S. supremacists more than doubled. The Southern Poverty Law Center tracks 917 hate groups in this country and has seen a 197% increase in the total number of anti-Muslim hate groups, up from 2015. At the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, we've seen a 57% increase in hate incidence reports compared to the year before, and a 584% increase in hate crimes targeting Muslims from 2014 to 2016. Kids bullied, hijabs pulled, people gunned down, mosques attacked, and even burnt to the ground. And 2017 is slated to be the worst year yet of anti-Muslim hate incidences, almost 1,700 cases in the first 3 quarters of last year. Bigotry rising, history repeating itself. The President of the United States has resisted calling out such white supremacists, maybe because he's been furthering some racist policies of his own. One such policy has been a mass deportation of undocumented immigrants, throwing them behind barbed wire, throwing them into detention camps to be deported. Under this administration, ICE has made 140,000 arrests last year, an increase of 30% compared to the year before, and the number of non-criminal arrests have doubled. And immigrants who've lived productive lives in the U.S. for decades are being rounded up, including my friend's brother, Sayed Jamal, who's a 53-year-old professor, and father of 3 American children, citizens, and who lived in the United States for over 30 years. He was ripped from his home in Lawrence, Kansas. And now the fate of 800,000 DACA recipients hangs in the balance until the March 5th deadline for Congress to act. And we won't see much of a positive direction from this president, who would even ask why America would want these immigrants from these S-hole countries. But of course, he would not have a problem bringing in immigrants from Norway. More racist immigration policies. History repeating itself. And Trump hasn't tried to hide his Islamophobic intentions either. While running for office, Trump called for a total and complete shutdown of all Muslims entering the United States. He described his policy as aimed for preventing Muslim immigration and called for a Muslim registry. He even said to Good Morning America's George Stephanopoulos, "What I'm doing is no different than what FDR's solution for German, Italian, Japanese, many years ago." Adding, "Take a look at what FDR did years ago. He's one of the most highly respected presidents. They named highways after him. The naming of highways after FDR doesn't sanitize the internment of 120,000 Japanese Americans, nor does the erection of Confederate statues sanitize slavery. Registries, travel bans, deportations. History repeating itself. This president truly needs to reread his history books, or actually read any books for that matter. Trump is the perfect example for why it's crucial for us to remember our history, for us to learn our history, because those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. On this day of remembrance, 76 years ago, after FDR signed the Executive Order 9066, we must remember the 120,000 people being torn from their homes. We must remember the 120,000 ripped from their families. We must remember the 120,000 dreams crushed. We must remember to never forget. FDR's executive order is a shameful episode in our nation's history, based on irrational fear and racial anxiety, rather than national security. Does that sound familiar today? History repeating itself. Trump has made 3 attempts to get his Muslim ban to stick. However, this week, CAIR and our partners have won yet another legal challenge to Trump's Muslim ban. A majority of the 13-judge panel on the U.S. Court of Appeals declared Trump's Muslim ban illegal and unconstitutional. They recognized the ban was designed to exclude Muslims from the United States. While we take a moment to celebrate this legal victory, unfortunately it doesn't change the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has currently allowed for the implementation for Muslim Ban 3.0. Please stay tuned for updates on nomuslimbanever.com. We have many more challenges ahead of us, and we can only get through these challenges when we partner together, fight each other's fights, and stay united. We need to make America great again, not through division, not through intolerance, not through restricting people's access to health care and other rights. We need to make America great again by making America whole again. We need to return to values of respect and decency and inclusion. We must stand together and work together to achieve these goals. And the Japanese American community has stood by us throughout it all because they've been through it. I thank you. I thank you all for your guidance. I thank you for your solidarity. I thank you for your persistence. I look forward to continuing fighting the good fight in unity with all of you. We are truly stronger together. No ban, no wall, no raids. No ban, no wall, no raids. May peace be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum.